Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Low Budget Review Show. I am your host, Eric Smith. Today I'm talking about Hex-Rated, a Brimstone Files novel by Jason Ridler and published by Nightshade Books. The year, 1970. The location, Los Angeles, California. James Brimstone is a former child magician and carny. He's a Korean War vet, and he is a newly licensed private eye. After attending the funeral of his mentor, he is hired by his very first client, Nico, a beautiful but scarred porn actress who wants James to find the person or thing that scarred her. And that, in a nutshell, very, very tiny nutshell, is Hex-Rated. So this book is a magic detective novel. It is a throwback to the grimy 70s pulp detective novels of my youth. And it really has the feel of that kind of book. It feels like it could have been written back in the 70s, and it's full of sex and violence and supernatural threats. This is the first thing I've ever read by Jason Ridler. I picked it up on a recommendation by Brian Keene. He's got a blurb right there on the top. But I think I heard him talk about it maybe on his podcast or in an interview or something. I don't recall. But between Brian Keene's recommendation and that wonderful cover, I had to grab this. Had it for a few years. Just got around to reading it. And right off the bat, I'll tell you I loved this. James Brimstone is a fantastic character. The kind of private dick that I really like. That sounds horrible. But he's a complicated character. He ran away from home in Oakland to literally join the circus. His mentor was a horrible man, and James is happy to be out from under his shadow and starting this private detective business. He wants to help the underdog, which is definitely a point in his favor. And throughout the book, he seems to have a bit of a temper when it comes to certain things. When people are throwing out epithets and racial slurs and things like that, James has to fight hard with himself not to beat the crap out of the people who are slinging these words. Pardon me, I have an itchy eyeball. And I really like that about his character. Aside from his backstory, just the fact that he feels so strongly about these things and, wants to stomp the people that we want to stomp. There's lots of other great characters in here. One of my particular favorites is Cactus, who is a friend of James Brimstone. He's working as a security guard at a casino. He's a Native American who was an NCO, ranked above Brimstone in Korea. And when James Brimstone needs a little help and asks Cactus if he wants to go stomp some Nazis, Cactus is in, because who doesn't want a good Nazi stomping? And we meet some other, again, I'm going to say friends, because there seems to be a love-hate relationship between between James and the people that he runs with. But a lot of great friends of his. James lives and has an office in the back of a burlesque house. And so, I mean, again, it's the 70s kind of dirty feeling to the story. and um, great characters. As I said, lots of sex and violence, and the pace incredibly fast. There are 292 pages in this book, and all but two of them take place in a single day. So we start with the funeral of James' mentor, and then he meets Nico, who wants to hire him, and it just goes from there. He's into it. He's investigating. He's getting into trouble. He's getting out of trouble. All sorts of craziness is happening. As I said, there's magic and violence, and I'm gonna keep saying sex because there's plenty of sex in this book. I mean, it does deal with the porn industry, but Jason Ridler really just keeps it moving, one thing after another. James is not having a good day on his first case. This eyeball is really bothering me, so I'm going to take a moment and see if I can get whatever dust is in there, get it out of there. I think I got it. Man, love this cover. I know I say that a lot, but this just touches my heart. It's got the kind of the wear and tear look to it. I don't know how many people here were old enough in the 70s to read this kind of thing, but it takes me back. It's wonderful. So again, great characters, great pacing to the story, a very interesting mystery, and I've always been a big fan of private detective, kind of stories. Mike Hammer, Philip Marlowe, the oldies, more modern ones, Elvis Cole and Spencer, and this guy, he fits into that mold, and then you layer the supernatural on top of that, and it's a hit in my book. There is a second book. I have it on the shelf right over there, and its cover is just as great. And as far as I know, these are the only two books in the series. I don't know if there are going to be any more. I would love for there to be more. If the second one is half as good as this, Jason Ridler has written some other stuff that I'll probably check out. But as far as I know, only two in this series. Is there anything else I want to say about that or about this? Just a fantastic story. It's not hardcore horror. No, it's not hardcore horror at all. But there is plenty of horror, plenty of no, there are some laughs, and it is in first person, like all the best PI pulp stories. And as I said, James, great character. Just an all around good time. I guess that's all I have to say about that. Have I forgotten anything? I don't think so. So, if you have any comments, questions, corrections, please leave them in the comments below. And please be polite. Please like, share, and subscribe. There is one more thing before I sign off. There are a few continuity errors in this book, and that is one of my pet peeves. I understand no author is perfect, and I tend to think that a lot of continuity errors end up being there because of rewrites. As the author goes through his second or third draft, makes some changes, and misses something that should be fixed because of those changes. I could be completely wrong about that. But unfortunately, they do tend to pull me out of the story because I'm reading along and then I come upon something that contradicts what came before, and I have to go back and see if it actually does. Okay, but wait, but this was different in 10 pages back, and then I have to flip back just to make sure. Yeah, that's what it said there, and this is doesn't fit. You know what I'm saying. Anyway, um, so there are a few things like that in here, and I'm just wondering. Let's have a conversation. Is this something that you notice? Is this something that bothers you um, when you're reading a book? Let's talk about it in the comments below. But aside from that, that's how good this book is. Even though there were a few continuity errors like that, I still loved this book. And we'll see what happens in the next one. See if we have the same problem or if it's just as good. So that is that. This has been the Low Budget Review Show. I have been Eric Smith. And until next time, read more books.